only have insulin resistance? Do I need to wait to be diabetic to get adequate health care? Why are people so upset about other people getting the help that they need?
I can tell you why they get so upset. It's not as complicated as you think, but it is sad. Let me explain. For those of you who are new, hi, I'm Allie. This is my fantabulous weight loss quest. And if you'd like to come along for the ride, hit that subscribe button because I put out new videos every day. So what the doctor is referring to in this video is this extreme backlash that people who are on GLP-1s experience from the general public. This idea that being on a GLP-1 is cheating, or that we're just lazy. If you would just eat less, move more, right? The ignorance is shining, as I like to say. The reason why there's so much backlash is not a complicated concept. And as somebody with a psychology degree, I can tell you we learn about this in college. So thin privilege and pretty privilege are real. They're a real thing. Even though those who are conventionally beautiful and those who are thin will tell you all day long that that's not a thing, if you were to place those individuals in a bigger body for even just a week and have them walk through their normal life, they would understand. Have them go to work, have them interact with people at work, interact with their family, interact with their friends, go out into social situations and interact with people. If they were to do all of those things, they would then understand. Now, why is it that these people get upset? It's because when we are placed into a situation where resources become scarce, it is natural to fight against that. And let me explain. The example that I like to use is if you place a group of primates in a room and there is only a set amount of food. And this group of primates has known each other their entire lives. They are a family, right? They are well acquainted with each other. There are mates and family units within the structure. If you place them into a room and every day there is only a set amount of food and they begin to understand that there's not enough food for everyone, you will find that they will start to fend for themselves. Not because they don't care about the other individuals, not because they want those individuals to die or they want them to starve. Not at all. But there is an innate, subconscious desire to survive. When resources become scarce, we resist. We fight back. And that is exactly what is happening to these individuals who have pretty privilege, who have thin privilege. And please keep in mind, this is completely subconscious. They are not consciously thinking, oh no, my pretty privilege is going to be taken away from me. Oh no, people are not going to treat me as good because I'm not special. They're not thinking that. That's why there's the disconnect. And for many of them, it's the only life they've ever known. They've been conventionally attractive their entire lives. They've been thin and approved of their entire lives. So they don't know what it feels like to be anything else. But subconsciously, we are intelligent beings and we understand that by utilizing what we have, being attractive, being thin, we can get more from life. Don't believe me? Ask any conventionally attractive woman in college who is thin. Ask her, who's also social, I should add. Don't ask an introvert because the answer won't be the same. But who is, social butterfly, young, attractive, conventionally attractive, not gorgeous, conventionally attractive, and thin. Ask them how often they go out to a bar and they don't have to spend a dime because the bartender gives them a free drink. The guy standing next to them gives them a free drink. Ask them how often they go out into normal social situations, like grocery shopping, and people will just talk to them. People are friendly. People will ask them questions as if they work there when clearly they don't. Just ask. And if you ask enough individuals who fit that criteria, you will see the trend. You will see the resources being provided. You will see that they are more socially acceptable. They have more social interactions with random people. They receive more in resources, which in my specific example was the free drink, but it could be any number of things. It could be a promotion at work. It could be a raise at work. It could be preferential treatment in a classroom by a professor. It could be any number of things. It could be access to being invited to exclusive parties, right? I mean, the list goes on. And I'm using the younger crowd as the example because it's easier. So all of these things make them special in their mind. So if you have an entire group of people who are now all thin and all socially accepted, you remove part of that privilege. Now, it's no longer that you are special because you are this way. Now you're just one of the crowd. Everybody's that way. You're not special anymore. You don't get special treatment, special consideration, special interactions. You don't get pumped up, your little ego. It doesn't happen. People don't just randomly stop you when you're walking through the mall to tell you that you're beautiful, because now we're all beautiful. And a really great example of this was a movie that I watched not that long ago. And I will admit, for anybody who actually wants to go watch the movie, it is super cheese factor. Super cheese factor. This is a one watcher at best, right? It's not a classic. It's not going to be the best thing ever. So please don't misunderstand me. But it's interesting. And it speaks to the social structure that we currently have in Western culture currently. So that's why I watched it. And I think it was on, I want to say it was on Netflix. Don't quote me on that. It might be on Prime. Anyway, it's called The Uglies. And I'm not going to ruin the movie for you in case you want to watch it, but it goes into pretty privilege and how the uglies are then transformed into pretty people and what that means and how they, lose themselves once they become pretty. It's interesting. And I think that on a much broader scale, it speaks to what we are experiencing today with GLP1s and people who have the disease of obesity, insulin resistance, diabetes, Hashimoto's, PCOS, immune disorders, the list goes on and on and on. We are now seeing that we are able to play on an even field. See, before, whenever we would try to lose weight, we had to start down here. Normal people, when they want to lose weight, they start up here because their body functions properly. We have to start down here because our bodies suck and there's something wrong, right? Any of the conditions. I listed a few. So not only do we have to work 100% harder just to get on an even playing field to then be able to lose weight, we then have to work harder on top of that, whereas the normal person can just put in a normal amount of effort, which can be challenging, and they will lose weight. But they're up here. Our bodies are down here. We have to get up here to then make progress. But what a GLP-1 medication does, and the newer medications that are going to be coming out, what they're doing is they're evening the playing field. So now we start here as if our bodies were normal. And if you put in the work, if you do what needs to be done to address those metabolic conditions, to address your nutrition, to exercise, just like you would do if you were a normal person and you didn't have a problem, then you can lose weight, just like the normal person does. It evens the playing field. And what happens when you even the playing field? To the people who used to be special, they're not so special anymore. Now you actually have to work at being special. Now, in order to stand out, you're going to have to actually do something instead of relying on being conventionally beautiful or being thin. Because if we're all thin, do you see how this happens? And you have to keep in mind, and this is really, really important, especially if you have interactions with people who have these thought processes, you have to keep in mind this is all happening subconsciously. Unless the person is incredibly introspective, they are not sitting there thinking to themselves, I'm really upset that my best friend is on a GLP-1 because now she's going to be pretty and I'm not. Now I'm no longer going to look really good standing next to her because now she's going to be thin and pretty just like me. I'm actually going to have to do something to stand out, right? People don't have those thought processes unless they're me, because I'm introspective. It's what I do. So your average Joe is not going to have that thought process. The thought process they're going to have is the one that's much easier to accept and convey, which is anger, disgust. Oh, well, you're just taking the easy way out. Oh, well, you're just lazy. Well, if you just had some self-control. It is so much easier and more palatable to be able to say those things than to say, I'm insecure. I have problems. I feel like I won't be special if you are thin and beautiful. It's so much harder to say that. It's so much harder to be honest with yourself, let alone somebody else. And this is why we see so many people who post in the support groups on a daily basis about how they're struggling to interact with their family members, to interact with their significant others. Their significant others are telling them, well, you know, you lost all this weight, you look terrible. You looked better when you were bigger. I gotta tell you, I keep track of those posts because I like to do little research things on the side. And 8 times out of 10, currently, just in the 12 months that I have been doing this research, 8 times out of 10, that spouse is either unattractive, conventionally, I'm not saying it to be cruel, they are either unattractive, they themselves are overweight, or their spouse was conventionally unattractive at a higher weight, and they have now lost weight and become conventionally attractive. Again, not saying these things to be cruel. I'm just telling you my observation. And most of the time it is a conventional heterosexual relationship. So it's a man who's saying this to a woman, just in general with that group that I'm tracking. So people's insecurities play a big role in how they interact with other people. Now, I want to tell you about my own personal experience having lost over 100 pounds and being reintroduced into thin privilege. And I just want to say right off the bat that I'm not thin yet. So please don't misunderstand me. But I did lose over 100 pounds, and it has become blaringly obvious to me the difference in how people treat me. So I do want to touch on that, just so you can kind of know where I'm coming from and what I've experienced so far. So, I used to be able to go out into public in whatever I was doing. Go to the mall, go to the grocery store, go to the thrift store, whatever. I could go anywhere, Sam's Club. And I did not have to worry about people talking to me, people making eye contact with me, people interrupting me with what I'm doing. Like if I'm on my phone researching something, or if I'm talking on the phone, I never had to worry about that ever. Not since I was starting college, which was the last time I was this size, by the way. And just for reference, I weigh 182 pounds currently, and I'm a size 14. So just to give you a reference, I'm 5'5". I always forget to mention that. And people are like, Allie, how tall are you? I'm not tall. So, okay. Now that I'm back down to this just starting college weight, I am shocked at the treatment that I receive. So when I go out now, I have to account for additional time that it is going to take me to do things. For example, I used to be able to go in the grocery store and you're in and out in 30 minutes. I like to power walk. I like to have my list of groceries. I get my stuff, boom, 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 boom. Now, please, I'm lucky to get out of there in an hour and 15 because I go up to the deli counter and the lady strikes up a conversation with me for 10 minutes. I go to get a sub, right? At Publix, they have the subs, and the guy wants to have a conversation. I'm standing there researching something, looking at labels, and an elderly woman will walk up and ask me questions and, hey, do you know where this is? And hey, what is that you're looking at? Is that good? Have you tried it? I go and I'm trying to get something that's up high. Men flocking to help me. When I was 100 pounds heavier, nobody struck up a conversation. Nobody offered to help me with anything. Nobody made eye contact. And the only time that people really acknowledged that I was even there was when small children would say, "Mommy, why is that lady so fat?" And then their mom would have to explain. Hey, another great example that just happened to me the other day, right? With the seasons changing, air pressure in your tire starts to go down. It's annoying. And so I went to go put air in the tires. I was there clearly doing just fine, right? You take the little cap off, you got your little measuring stick, psh, right? You measure, okay. Oh, wow, I need like 10 pounds of pressure, right? Measure again for double checking. Okay, we're good. You get the thing, you push the button, you put the air in the tire. It's not rocket science. I want you to know that I was not struggling at all. You know how like the thing, you gotta pull it out. No, I pull that thing out, I step on it, and I'm like putting the air in the tire. I'm good. Clearly, fully functional female putting air in tires. I want you to know there were two gentlemen, and I'm gonna call them gentlemen because they were, separately, not together, at separate times, who came over to ask me if I needed help. One was a younger guy, one was an older guy. They announced themselves before they came up on me, right? Because I'm down at the tire, my back's turned to them. So they announced themselves before they came up. They didn't just walk up on me or get close. They were kind of standing back. "Hey, ma'am, are you okay? Do you need any help?" And I was like, "Hey, yeah, I'm doing good. Thank you so much for asking. That was so nice of you. Okay, just want to make sure you're okay." Two dudes. Two awesome dudes, I might add. Right? Like, I've been putting air in my tires for at least 20 years as a morbidly obese woman, and I've never had a man walk up and ask me if I needed help. Even if I was actually in a position where I was struggling to get the hose out, never. Now, please don't misunderstand me. I don't need a man to come over and help me, but gosh, it sure felt nice. And what if I had been struggling? What if I really didn't know what I was doing? What if I was a younger woman who was completely clueless and just watched a YouTube video about how to put air in tires, and I was panicking and thought I was doing it wrong, right? Then those gentlemen could have come in to assist, to help. It was just nice. And it made me feel fantastic. And then I remembered all the times that I've put air in tires and nobody ever came over to ask me if I needed help. It is little things like that that people who are conventionally beautiful and people who are thin or have always been thin will never understand. They don't get it. And if you try to explain it to them, you are going to be met with a blank stare because they've never experienced it. And this is one of those things where until you experience it, you don't realize. And for some of us who have been in a bigger body for, 20 plus years, we have forgotten that it could be so good. And that's the position I'm in because I didn't become morbidly obese until around college age. And so for me, all of these memories are flooding back and I'm like, oh yeah. I forgot that people will just randomly come up to you in the grocery store and talk to you. Hey, how's your day going? What you up to? What you doing? What are you doing later today? Hey, how's it going? I went to Best Buy to pick up some items for my YouTube channel, and there was a guy who walked straight up to me and insisted on helping me. Insisted. I was like, no, I got to compare these things, and I'm good. I mean, I know what I want. I just got to find the right area, because Best Buy, if you're watching, why do you have microphones in 3 different places in your store? Why are we doing this? Target did it to me too with my protein powder the other day. I'm like, stores, why are you doing this? Put everything that is like together in the same area so that I can compare all the items. Because if I walk up and it looks like your store only has one option for a microphone, guess what? I'm just going to go to Amazon. Why are we doing this? Whose idea was this? Let's take things and spread them out across the store. We're going to have them in this area with the cameras, and then this area with the computer stuff, and then this random area over here with the gaming stuff. And all of them are going to be different. Listen, whoever is laying out your store is a freaking idiot. Call me. I used to do merchandising. This is redonkulous. You're missing out, because 9 times out of 10, people are not going to ask you where the thing is. They're just going to assume that that's all you have, and they're going to leave. Okay. Guys, I'm getting off on a tangent. I'm so sorry. This is my Oath Frosty Lemonade Clear Protein Powder. It's so good. It's the one I got at Target that I made a video about. Okay. I'm going to get back on track here. So, I hope this better explains to you why people do what they do and why they act the way that they do. I think that majority of Western society does not want to accept what I just said. I think that if I had said this in a group full of skinny people, that they would 100% be flabbergasted. That's not true. That's not a thing. Dude, that's not how I feel. That's not what happens to me. It is. It does. You may not be comfortable with accepting it, and that's okay. That's okay. Because as a whole, our society is going to change. GLP1s are going to force change. Is everybody resisting it right now? Yes. But they also resisted it with bariatric surgery, and eventually they just gave up on that as well. These medications, they're going to level the playing field, so that the real reasons why you and I are special are now going to be able to shine brightly for everyone to see. I hope you found this video interesting. If you did, give me a thumbs up. It helps my channel. If you haven't already, subscribe. Like I said, I put out new videos every day. Who does that? I do. Keeping you in the know, keeping you thinking. That's my job. Okay, if you're looking for a positive-only support group, I've got you covered. Link is in the description box below. And as always, be kind, rewind.
I have a theory about how the increased accessibility of Ozempic is going to lead to a complete reversal of modern beauty standards, away from thinness being prized as the ideal. and I got there from thinking about the 17th century spice trade. So there's an economic phenomenon called the snob effect, where the demand for a certain good by individuals of a higher income is inversely related to the demand by those of a lower income. It's also talked about in terms of scarcity value, or the anti-bandwagon effect. And I got here because I was just reading this book about the history of human social organization. It's really good. And there was this big section about the global spice trade. So from the 15th to the 17th centuries, European desire for spices led them to invading multiple continents, committing genocide, waging terrible bloody wars fought over the right to control spice production and distribution. And this was all driven by the economic incentive of spices as a valuable commodity. And spices were a valuable commodity in Europe because they were rare. And since spices were rare in Europe, having well-seasoned food was a status symbol. But I'm also sure that everybody has seen memes like this. If European and specifically British history was so thoroughly shaped by their desire for spices, why is British food known for being so incredibly bland? Is in large part because of the snob effect. When Europeans did control the production and distribution of spices, the cost of spices in Europe went down exponentially, which meant that now even the working class could afford to season their food. And in consequence, using spices was no longer symbolic of being a member of the ruling class, so the rich gave it up, rather than have their culinary practices at all resemble those of the poor. And then what I think is really funny is that the rich became obsessed with getting their food as hot as possible instead. There's a section of the book that goes, to try to speed things up in getting the food from the kitchen to the dining room, Tatton Park in Cheshire, an internal railway line was laid down so that trolleys could be rushed from the kitchen to a distant dumbwaiter, there to be hastily dispatched onward. So what does this all have to do with Ozempic? It requires taking a look at the reigning societal beauty standards over time, which have varied very widely throughout recorded history. For most of human history, the beauty ideal for both men and women was the plumper the better, because it was proof that that individual had enough to eat. Beauty standards are a reflection of economic status, even in insidious ways. For example, it's the reason why we still find very long nails and high heels on women attractive, because it's proof that that individual doesn't have to do manual labor in order to survive. But around the time of the Industrial Revolution, and because of the Industrial Revolution, being thin became the women's beauty standard. And in our contemporary society, when the cheapest food is the most calorie-dense, and when leisure time that you could spend exercising is in short supply if you have to work multiple jobs in order to survive, being thin and physically fit is associated with a higher tax bracket. Gym memberships, dietitians, Pilates studios, organic vegetables, unprocessed foods. These are all vastly more accessible to the ruling class. Therefore, thinness is still associated with that class. Now, Ozempic has come onto the scene. Currently, it is still very expensive, and without insurance, it is only available to those with a spare $1,000 a month, so it is still a status symbol. In the upcoming months and years, it is expected that the prices will be slashed significantly. In 2025, Medicare is going to be negotiating down the prices of 15 different drugs, and Ozempic is known to be among them. So it might take a number of years, but very soon, Ozempic is going to be much more accessible to the average consumer. And so, when we conceive of the snob effect, what's going to happen when the working class has access to the thin beauty standard in great numbers? For my part, I think that the beauty standard is going to change rapidly in accordance. In what direction, I don't know. But I would put money on the fact that whatever is going to be desirable in the future, it's going to be expensive to attain.